biology days, and back on the time that I was also assigned to teach this in senior high school, biology, general biology 1, I think. It's 1. Okay, kung hindi ko nakakalimutan. Mahirap sa una, sasabihin mo sarili mo, ano ba naman ito? Kailangan natin pag-aralan to. But eventually, when you have learned this and you give, kumbaga yung comprehension mo that you need to understand this because this is a very important topic in biology, in zoology, in histology. Para siyang multo na susundan kayo kahit saan kayo magpunta. Because this is a basic concept in medical or in biology. Okay? So, basically, seeing on the picture, nakita nyo, no? You see a light there, a campfire, and you see the light to push through, there should be heat. And you know for the fact that there's an energy that is involved when the wood is burned. So, just like us, no, the cells of living things also obtain energy by burning. Not literally burning, no, but we need the energy to burn all the substances that we take inside the body that we need to convert into energy for our everyday living. Okay. So basically, the burning of that glucose or the process of metabolizing glucose that we take inside the body is actually called cellular respiration. So every cell of a living thing's energy is required. No? Kung wala kang energy class, hindi magpupush through ang isang metabolism. Kaya kung familiar kayo sa process ng chemical reactions that is happening inside your body, lahat yun nangangailangan ng energy. Okay. It needs to break down, it needs to build up. So when you say monomers, you need to build that up into polymers, you need energy. You have to break down polymers into monomers, then you need energy. So all of life's works demands energy. A lot of energy is also simply lost to the environment as heat. So, pag yung energy na distribute na sa environment, uneven distribution yan eh. Doon papasok yung sinasabi nating law of thermodynamics. So the story of life is story of energy flow, its capture, its change or form, its use for work, and its loss as heat. Okay, di ba? We have a law that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can only be transformed from one form to another. So the word transformation goes for recycling. Nare-recycle lang siya, class. Okay. So I will give you a short view of this that I was always using even to high school students. How do we have energy inside our body is also the same thing how heat energy gets inside the ecosystem. Diba? So when you talk about an ecosystem, maraming klase yan. Okay. So if, for example, we are in an ecosystem, okay, we are into an urban na ba tayo, class? Because marami tayong subdivisions dito, no? Okay, urban ecosystem, we are near city, we are near Manila, and develop na talaga yung environment natin. So when this sun strikes Earth, no, obviously, pumapasok siya sa loob ng bahay natin, and there were plants who benefit from this, and you don't say that you don't benefit from it. So that is a form of heat energy. So that heat energy, as it enters every object on Earth, a living or a non-living, would have its transformation. Pero ang malinaw lang, it would escape Earth or it would escape the ecosystem on Earth still on the form of heat energy. So you may be asking, ma'am, bakit kailangan mag-escape? Because there should be balance. Kung sa katawan nyo naman, okay, you had heat energy, di ba? Tulad ngayon, mainit, class. So actually, mataas ang metabolism natin ngayon. That's the reason why we perspire, no? Ang bilis ng oxidation natin ngayon. Kumbaga, we are really sweating out because the environment is so hot and the heat energy was just around us. Para tayong nilulutong ulam, class. But of course, we're human and we have this what we call homeostasis to balance our internal environment. Pero kailangan mag-e-effort ka. Kaya ngayon, kung hindi ka mag-e-effort, magiging candidate ka sa heat stroke or stroke because possibly you had high blood pressure. Diba? So you have to drink lots of water, and if you get out, you make sure na mayroon kang pang-protection sa sarili mo. So what happened to this energy that gets inside your body? Now, inside your body, it can be now transformed into chemical energy. So this chemical energy actually is the reason why you were able to metabolize. So sasabihin mo, ma'am, ito na ba yung chemical energy? Yes, partly. Okay. But you see, when you say the body needs energy, kailangan class lahat nasa form ng ATP. Okay. And what we call this, the adenosine triphosphate. Okay. So nagtutulungan sila, no? So pansinin nyo, sapat na ba yung energy ng sun? Kaya nga daw when it's raining or it's not, walang sunlight, bumabagyo, gloomy ang weather, you also feel sad. Because that energy coming from the sun also makes us active. Diba? Kaya nga tingnan nyo doon sa mga lugar na walang gaanong araw. Kaya sa Pilipinas, we're lucky. Kung malulungkot tayo sa buhay because we belong to the third world country, there were still other reasons why we need to be happy because we are into a tropical country. Hindi katulad sa ibang bansa na mas madami yung time na malamig talaga sa kanila. Okay? So the chemical energy that organism needs come from food. Okay, so si heat energy mo na pumasok sa katawan mo, tutulong lang yun, class. Pero yung ikaw mismo para masustain mo yung buhay mo, kailangan mo ng pagkain. Okay, so ano ang meron ang mga foods na to? Of course, the organic molecules, no? Kaya nga we are organic, we're almost made up of organic compounds. So these organic molecules that we store energy in their chemical bonds. So kung tatanungin ka, saan naka-store yung mga energy? Sagot mo doon, chemical bonds. So example, glucose is a simple carbohydrates that stores chemical energy in a concentrated stable form. So in our body, glucose is the form of energy that is carried out in the blood. But remember, glucose, because this is considered to be a macromolecules or a biomolecule, should not stay long in the bloodstream. But rather, there should be a hormone, what we call insulin, that should be released by the pancreas to regulate the blood sugar of our body. Because in excess of that, ikamamatay din natin. So, cells per se, no, lahat ng cells ng katawan natin, carry out cellular respiration to extract energy from the bonds of glucose and other food molecules. So, cells can store the extracted energy in the form of ATP. Ang daming paliwanag, no? Okay? So now let's go to cellular respiration. Pag sinabi natin cellular respiration, it's a set, class. It's not an individual reaction, but it's a set of metabolic reactions and processes that takes place in the cells of organisms to convert the chemical energy coming from the oxygen molecules or the nutrients to ATP. And it would be released sa katawan natin, yung mga feces natin, yung mga urine natin, these are now waste products. So the process by which living cells break down glucose, no, paano ba natin binibreak down ang glucose at nagre-release ng energy, yun ang pag-aaralan natin dito. So the process is similar to burning. Okay, hindi nga siya nagpo-produce ng light or intense heat tulad dun sa campfire, but it releases energy in glucose slowly. So there were so many steps, class. Pasalamat pa kayo kasi nasa zoology lang tayo. Pero kasi kung nasa biochemistry tayo, nakita nyo kung paano ito kadetalyado, medyo magagrasp tayo ng mga terms doon, tsaka mga legends. Kasi kailangan maintindihan mo muna yung mga codes bago mo maintindihan yung level ng cellular respiration sa biochemistry. So it uses the energy that is released from molecules of ATP, which is called the energy carrying molecule that was used to power biochemical processes. So here involves many chemical reaction. Actually, I always say to my students, cell respiration is the opposite of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is the most important chemical reaction on Earth because it is the process that provides energy to provides oxygen to every living organism on Earth. So here we have C6H12O6, 6O2, 6CO2, 6 water, plus energy and ATP. Okay? So ito na yon. So magtataka siguro kayo, sabihin nyo, oh mama, ano nangyari? Doon sa glycolysis natin class, mayroon siyang, sa bawat step, no? Okay, glucose is C6, 6 carbon. Okay, converting glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, okay, you will be releasing ATP to ADP. Anong ibig sabihin nun? You need to lose one inorganic phosphate coming from adenosine triphosphate and you will be having a byproduct of adenosine diphosphate. When you say adenosine diphosphate, meaning it only has two inorganic phosphate. Nawala yung isang inorganic phosphate. And then, converting glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate, wala. Walang mawawala, no? But for fructose 6-phosphate, going to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or C3, okay, nababago yung carbon numbers, no, ng compound, no. So you will another release ATP to ADP. Pero dito class, glyceraldehyde 3 to 1,3 biphosphoglycerate, okay, pareho silang C3. But here, it's not ATP to ADP, but 2-nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide to 2-nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide hydrogenase, okay, or NADH. Parang nadagdagan siya ng isang hydrogen. So, step-by-step to class, no? This is a step-by-step process. Okay? Kasi kung titingnan natin to ng buo, nakakaloka, no? Nakakaloka talaga. So, ang basically, pag cell respiration, ang mahalaga lang naman dito ay, alam mo kung ilang ATP. So, sabi dito, dalawang ATP energy investment stage. Okay, dito naman sa process na to ay net gain is also 2 ATP because plus 4 ATP minus 2 ATP would give you 2 NATP. So, when you talk about glycolysis, it's dalawang klase to. Okay, dalawang klase. May glycolysis na hindi nagpo-push through because it's anaerobic o walang oxygen. At may glycolysis that gets into the Krebs cycle because it is a glycolysis with the presence of oxygen. Okay? So, tingnan na lang natin yung mahahalaga na kailangan yung matandaan. Yung mga bagay na pwede naman yung basahin, hindi ko na to class babasahin, no? Okay. So, doon nakita nyo doon yung NAD+, tsaka NADH. Meron ding FADH, tsaka FADH2. Okay. So, kasama siya ni ATP, tsaka ADP. No? So, maraming pinapasukan ang glucose. So, from glycolysis, it will be converted to 2-pyruvate molecule. Ano ba yung pyruvate? Ang simpleng description lang ng pyruvate is it is a 3-carbon organic molecule or C3. Okay, tingnan natin si C3 dito. Ayan, pinakita ba si C3? Ayan, ito si pyruvate, oh. O, ayan na. Dito dalawang pyruvate yan, no? Dalawang phosphoenol pyruvate, dalawang 3-phosphoglycerate. So, ibig sabihin, ito sa process na to class, papuntang pyruvate, dadaan muna siya dito sa mga molecules na to. Okay, it will not go just directly coming from glucose down to pyruvate. Okay, so yung step-to-step process at yung tanong sa inyo kung ilang NADH ang napuproduce, kailangan matandaan nyo yun. O, balikan natin. Sabi dito, 4 na ATP. Kaso may negative 2 dito. Kaya ang net gain lang sa proseso ng glycolysis ay 2 ATP lang. Okay? So, pyruvate, each pyruvate, Okay, sabi ko na to. Okay, pag ang glycolysis class, walang oxygen, hindi na siya didiretso sa Krebs cycle. Tandaan nyo yan ha. What would happen now? Fermentation or lactic acid production. So, ang tanong, nangyayari din ba ito, ma'am, sa katawan namin? Yes. Pag kayo ay takbo ng takbo at naramdaman nyo yung cramp sa hita nyo and you feel pain, di ba? Meaning, nakulangan ng oxygen yung muscles nyo or yung cellular muscles nyo. So, the reason happens is instead of sustaining the process for you to run, okay, nag-produce ka ng lactic acid. And that makes you stop. Di ba? Kaya masakit. Kaya pag nirelax mo, di ba, yung mga athlete, pinapadyak-padyak pa nila yan. And then they run again, meaning bumalik na naman sa momentum yung glycolysis. Okay. Now, each pyruvate from glycolysis goes into the mitochondrial matrix. Mahalaga rin, class, that you know what part of mitochondria does this occur. So I think this is depending on the kind of species. Pero syempre, this is very general. So now we are only talking about us, humans, no? So there it's converted into 2 carbon molecule bound to coenzyme A. So coenzyme A is also known as acetyl coenzyme A. Noong una, class, sabihin nila, ma'am, lahat ba ng kinakain natin ay napoprocess sa loob ng katawan natin? Yes. At ang pinakamadaling paliwanag, class, sabihin nyo lang na lahat ng kinakain natin, protein, carbohydrates, kasi ito pinapakita, class, ito lang yung process that is occurring for glucose. Imagine that. Wala dito, class, yung protein, ha? Wala dito yung lipids. But all of those gets into the process of producing our ATP. Kaya nga sabi ko, kung makikita mo ang cell respiration, all you thought is this is the only metabolism that the cells that we have undergo. But the reality, it's not. Because kung maaaral mo ang biochemistry, ang pinakamalinaw lang dito ay every food that you take should be converted to coenzyme A or acetyl coenzyme A. And they will have their own pathway in your cells. Now, kaya nga, ito kasi mahalaga, basic info talaga. So let's go for the citric acid cycle, o TCA, the Krebs cycle. Calvin-Benson cycle din yata, tinatawag na to. So acetyl coenzyme A or CoA, galing dun sa pyruvate oxidation, no, would be combining with oxaloacetate. Tingin ko nakita niyo sa lobster niyo to. Or mamaya niyo palang makikita. Makikita niyo doon sa diagram or doon sa blackboard ng lobster na oxaloacetate is a 4-carbon molecule. And it goes through a cycle of reaction. Ang maganda lang sa metabolism ng katawan natin, class, napaka-exact, napaka-amazing talaga. Particularly the functions of enzymes, which is very specific. Nako, ma-amaze ka. Okay, so, ibig sabihin, kung hindi siya magko-combine kay oxaloacetate, hindi siya makakapasok dun sa cycle reaction. Okay? Then, the cycle, ATP and ADH and FADH2 now are produced dito dito. Ito lang yung concern nito. Ayan, Okay, dito yan. Ala dyan, class, yung electron transport chain. Kasi parang 3 steps yan Glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and then electron transport chain. Okay? Asan na ako? Ayan. Now, oxidative phosphorylation, I think this is also electron transport chain or ETC. Okay. Tingnan nga natin. Para malinaw tayo, class. Kasi medyo conflicting din talaga to Is ETC the same with chemiosmosis? Si class, kahit matagal nyo nang tinuturo. O, sa terms ng ginagamit sa science talagang. Okay. Okay. So, sa electrons transport chain, okay, the energy released in these electrons are transfer is used from an electrochemical gradient. Pero pag sinabi natin chemiosmosis, the energy stored in the gradient, ayun. So, nakapasok pa rin siya sa ETC. Kaya lang, binukod siya ng dalawa. Okay. Pag yung energy na nailagay na sa gradient because of electron transport chain is used to make ATP under chemiosmosis. So, I'm right. Tama. Nasa isang proseso lang sila. Okay, and now NADH and FAD2, no? So class magkaiba siya ha. FADH2 and FAD2 is different. Losing hydrogen, no? Nawawala yung H. Same thing with NAD plus and NADH. So dito, deposit their electrons in the electron transport chain, turning back into their empty forms of NAD and FAD. So NAD, tatandaan nyo, NAD to NADH, losing electrons yon or gaining electrons. Okay. FAD to FAD2 or FADH2. Okay, tingnan nga natin. Bakit parang malito? Okay, tingnan natin ulit. So kung hindi natin to matatapos ngayon, it's okay. As long as class tayo, malinaw tayo. Okay, there were so many different FADs. But FADs mean flavine adenine dinucleotide. Okay, flavine adenine dinucleotide. Okay. How about FADH? FADH. Okay, FADH is iba hindi binubuo eh. Hydrogenase or hydrogen. What is FAD and FADH in biology? Okay. Flavine adenine dinucleotide in its oxidized state is called FAD. Okay. Pag na-reduce siya, tatawagin mo na siyang FADH2. So pareho lang to class. Hindi niya lang siguro nalagyan ng 2. Okay. Now, as electrons move down the chain, energy is released and used to pump protons to the matrix. Okay, even if I'm going to read this, if you're not going to understand it, okay, so nasa lobster yung mas malinaw na paliwanag. So when you talk about pyruvate oxidation, the citric acid cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation, it requires, o diba? Kung walang oxygen, wala. Okay. Only oxidative phosphorylation uses oxygen directly, but the other two stages can't run without oxidative phosphorylation. So here, this is the summary of glycolysis. Glucose, 2 ADP plus inorganic phosphate would give you 2 ATP. And in here, 2 NAD would be producing 2 NADH. And this glucose will give you pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Kung nakapag-produce ka ng dalawang ATP dito, magpuproduce ka rin ng dalawang NADH. Para magkaroon ka ng pyruvate na papasok doon sa electron transport chain. Okay? Next. So in chemistry, intermediate means a molecule, a substance or compound that was formed from the reactants and react further to produce the final. Parang intermediate yung dinadaanan. So most chemical reactions are stepwise, step by step. Okay, minsan simultaneous siya. From one step, it goes to another step, but it only happens in a cycle class. Ikot lang yan ng ikot. Ikot lang yan ng ikot. Kailangan talaga sa atin dapat 36. Kaya nga, ano ba yung pinaka paliwanag dito? For example, sick, you feel down, you don't have energy, meaning your immune system is using your ATP on attacking your infectious cells. Kaya madali lang class maramdaman if something's wrong with you. But in my case, because of my age, no, sa edad ko, pag tingin ko kailangan mo ng pahinga, kahit naman kayo class, or puyat ka ng sobra, ipahinga nyo muna. Kasi para maka-bounce back din yung katawan nyo. Kasi kung hindi tayo makaka-bounce back, masyadong maaabuso yung ating katawan. Diba? Okay? So yung mga technical forms class, tingin ko, Lobster will explain that. Kasi kahit na I have to, for example, I have to just, yung isa-isahin ko yan, pero yung comprehension nyo, okay, ito maganda to. Ito na yung acetyl coenzyme A. O, sinabi ha, glucose will get into the Krebs cycle in the form of acetyl coenzyme A. Okay? Bakit siya tricarboxylic? Kasi it refers to the 3-carboxyl group found in the first two, ayan, intermediate. Ibig sabihin, bago siya maging isocitrate, dadaan muna siya kay citrate. So, sino ang intermediate dito? Si citrate. Okay. Citrate going to alpha-ketogluta, isocitrate. Oh, yun ang ibig sabihin ng intermediate. To easily understand what is Krebs cycle class, it is very important that you have to know what is citrate, how many carbon makes up citrate, isocitrate, alpha-keto, succinyl coenzyme A. Oh, you see, succinyl coenzyme A is different from succinate, fumarate, and malate. Okay? So, isipin. And it goes back again to oxaloacetate. Okay? But dito kasi, coming from this kind of metabolism, class, marami nang umaalis na mga electrons dyan. Maraming umaalis na protons dyan. And most of those will go to the electron transport chain. Doon nagpo-produce ng pinakamaraming numbers ng ATP. Okay. But if we're going to check or to take note only of this process, okay, ang mahalaga dito is how many, di ba, NADH was produced per cycle, per turn, okay? For example, when you are converting isocitrate to alpha-ketoglutarate, di ba? An NAD plus will be converted to NADH. Okay. And removal of carbon dioxide. Converting alpha-ketoglutarate to succinyl coenzyme A is again conversion naman ng another NAD to NADH. Okay, sorry, nagulol ako. Malabo, hindi ko makita. And removal again of carbon dioxide. And for succinyl coenzyme A going to succinate, guanosine diphosphate will become guanosine triphosphate. And one inorganic phosphate is removed. Now, pwede kayo magtaka, ma'am, ano ba yung GTP? Pareho lang ba siya ng ATP? Okay. Definition of GTP, an energy-rich nucleotide which is analogous, no? Halos pareho siya sa ATP, pero ang composition niya ay guanine, ribose, and 3-phosphate group. And is necessary, saan siya kailangan, no? For peptide bond formation habang or on process of protein synthesis. Okay. To make this more exact, what we mean by you say analogous? Ibig sabihin ang term na analogous sa biology, the same function. Okay? Diba? Magkaiba lang sila ng composition. Kasi dito, class, you see, nawalan din siya ng isang inorganic phosphate. But again, because guanine, it is necessary for the formation in the process of protein synthesis. So, pwede nyo sabihin, ma'am, mahalaga ba lahat? Oo, class. Walang nawawala. Lahat ng naku-convert, pinakikinabangan niya ng susunod na cycle. Okay? So, succinate to fumarate, FADH2, FAD to FADH2, no? So, tingnan naman natin, class, ano ba yung FAD to FADH2? Ano bang nangyayari when FAD is being converted to FADH2? Okay. Because basically, when you understand this, maintindihan nyo rin ano yung NADH2, FADH2. Okay. So, flavin adenine dinucleotide is an important redox cofactor. Okay, mahalaga sila. Hindi lang naman yung siya dyan makikita. No? It's involved in many reactions in metabolism. So, fully oxidized form is the NAD and FAD is converted to the reduced. No? Kaya, isipin nyo, pag meron na siyang hydrogen, reduced form na siya, class. Okay. Fully oxidized is FAD. Okay. Was that the same with NAD and NADH2? NAD to NADH2 para hindi na lang din kayo malito at isipin nyo na pareho lang pala, magkaiba lang yung acronym niya. Okay. Pareho lang siya. But in the case of NAD, it was reduced to NADH2 and then carry the electron to some other reaction. Kaya NAD, pwede siya maging carrier ng electron once it was reduced to NADH2. At pag bumalik siya sa NAD, tulad din ni FAD, ang tawag mo dun is a fully oxidized NAD. Okay? So NAD meaning it loses one hydrogen, or FAD loses a hydrogen. It is in its reduced form, meaning pwede siya mag-pick up ng electron. Pwede siya maging carrier. Okay. Now, pag meron na naman siya ulit, ang tawag sa kanya ay NADH or FADH, oxidized na naman siya. So, ang tanong, pwede pa ba siya mag-carry? Hindi na. Okay. I hope I was making this topic a bit easier, class, because I know it's not easy. This was a challenge, actually. Okay, asa na tayo? Am I? Okay, ayan. So, ganun lang. Kung natatamad kayo, C5, alpha keto, C6, isocitro, ganun lang, class yan. Okay. Sa una lang medyo nakakahilo, pero kung tatandaan mo yung process, why was it lost, why it needs to carry, isipin nyo because there's another next step to wait. That's a wait in this process. Okay. Now, where all the ATP gone? Nawala ba? Okay. Pwede mo kasi sabihin, it seems pretty unimpressive. All that series of chemical reaction for what? 1 ATP or GTP. It's true that the cycle doesn't produce much ATP directly. However, it can make a lot of ATP indirectly by way of the NADH and FADH2 generates. Okay. Kaya nakita nyo, nawawalan, nare-reduce si NAD tsaka si FAD kasi ito yung tutulong para mag-produce ng ATP. But you have not seen that in the cycle. This NADH2 and FDH2 will connect with the last stage of the cellular respiration. Ang gagawin nila, they would deposit their electrons into the electron transport chain para magtuloy yung synthesis ng pagpuproduce ng ATP molecule. And this process is what we now call oxidative phosphorylation. So that tricarboxylic acid cycle is only a central driver of cellular respiration. From the beginning of the glycolysis, gumitna lang siya. So it takes acetyl coenzyme A. Kailangan itong acetyl coenzyme A para makapag-produce ng oxidation para kay pyruvate. And originally derived from glucose as its starting material. Kaya uulitin natin, kung walang glucose, walang oxygen, class, hindi matatapos o magpupush through ang cell respiration. So, anong nangyayari doon? So, yung series of redox reaction. So, the cycle harvests much of its energy in the form of NADH, FADH2, and ATP molecule. So, the reduced electron carrier, NAD to and FAD, would generate the tricarboxylic acid. Yun ang gagamitin para ipasa ang mga electron. Kaya, pag nakikita niyo yung cycle class, hindi lang kasi pinapakita na may mga nawawalang electron dito galing sa proseso ng reduction na to, yan o, reduction nila, para pakinabangan ng susunod na cycle. At andun sa dulo yung pagpuproduce ng maraming adenosine triphosphate. How many slides more? Okay, 2:30. Walang charge ko lang tong laptop. I can still talk 15 minutes. Okay, now, let's go for... Dito lang tayo kanina. Okay, yan. Dito lang tayo. So, okay na tayo dito. Then next, we'll have... What is now oxidative phosphorylation? Saan siya nangyayari? In the inner membrane of the mitochondria. This is the pathway that forms ATP. As a result of the transfer of electrons coming from NADH or FADH2. Ano ang nangyayari dito? It's powered by the movement of electrons. So kung wala yung electron class, hindi mangyayari tong cycle na to. Okay, so it is made up of two close. Sinabi ko na to kanina. ETC, chemosynthesis, or we call this also phosphorylation reaction. So sa ETC, electrons are passed from one electron acceptor to the next electron acceptor. Also, in this process, energy is released, electron transfer is used from an electrochemical gradient that would be resulting in the synthesis of ATP. So what we call this electrochemical gradient, it would indicate the difference in solute concentrations across the membrane and the difference in charge across the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Okay, class. Sakit na lalamunan ko, class. Okay, we stop here. Okay, I will continue the discussion next time. Yung isip kaya, pero yung lalamunan ko, okay, I will stop recording this. Bigyan ko na